Hi, this is Daryl Pereira from the IBM Ecosystem Development Team, and we have an interesting and exciting interview coming up in preparation for the IBM Pulse DevEt Pulse event that we have coming up next week. And for those of you that don't know, DevEt Pulse presents an opportunity to bring together some of great minds in development, whether it's enterprise, whether it's startups, across the board to discuss some of the latest trends and happenings. Given that Pulse, there's a strong focus on cloud, that will definitely be a focus at the DevEt Pulse event. But all are welcome. It's a free event. Will be taking place in Las Vegas from on February 24th and February 25th. So with that said, we have one of the guest speakers with us today. I'm joined by Reshma Saujani, who's the founder of Girls Who Code. And Reshma, if I could just turn over to you and ask you to give us a quick introduction.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be in Vegas next week. I'm Reshma Saujani. I'm the CEO and founder of Girls Who Code, which is a national nonprofit that's seeking to close the gender gap. I'm very passionate about women's issues. I recently wrote a book called Women Who Don't Wait in Line to really explore what the next generation of feminism looks like. And I'm a political entrepreneur. I've run 2 political races and have a lot of thoughts about risk and failure.
Okay, great. Thanks, Reshma. First question. I see that, in terms of some of the stats that, that Girls Who Code have provided, it seems that there's this large disparity between interest in terms of girls at the school level, high school level, and then in terms of college, where perhaps maybe 74% of girls express an interest in STEM skills, that's science, technology, engineering, and math, at the high school level, but when it gets to college, just 0.3% of high school girls select computer science. So can you talk a little bit about why you think that might be the case?
So I think what happens is if you haven't taken a STEM course or a coding class or a computer science class by the time you get to college, you're not going to take one in college. So many of your interests, I think, are like really crystallized and galvanized when you're in high school. So I think that that's for us where the real opportunity lies, is how do we get girls passionate about this issue in high school, because by the time they get to college, we've lost them.
Okay. And in terms of, like, I did also see, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but on your website, you also stated that this disparity has kind of grown over the years, that there was a time, maybe if you go back 20 years, where there were more women that were choosing to go in the direction of STEM.
Absolutely. So in the 1980s, about 37% of women in this, folks in this space were women, and now that number is less than 13%. So you've almost had an 80% decline in the last 10 years, which is crazy. My mother's an engineer, and so I knew a lot of women in her generation were really passionate about this field. And I think that one of the things that has really happened is a culture, right? We have encouraged girls not to go into these fields. We've basically said, it's not for you. There's the Barbie doll that, hates math, or I can buy a T-shirt that says allergic to algebra. Even though a girl is really good at math and science, we think it's okay if she says, it's hard, I'm not good at it. So we really have to inspire these young women to go into these fields, because there's not, one of the biggest things that we learned at Girls Who Code is there is no aptitude issue. It's not that just genetically boys are better at this than girls. That's absolutely false. Girls are choosing to not go into these fields because they're choosing fields where they feel like they can actually make a difference and change the world. And so for us, it's about making that connection between computer science and medicine, computer science and economic development, computer science and politics, right? Showing that, there's a problem out there that you can solve, but you need computer science skills to solve it.
Excellent. And I think that leads on to next question, which would be in terms of then some of the programs that you developed to help address the issue. Can you just talk through maybe a little bit of detail, maybe a few examples to drop in there?
So we have 2 products. Our summer immersion program, which think of a 7-week class in a technology company that happens over the summer. So for 7 weeks, we'll put 20 girls at Twitter or Square or Google, and we'll teach them how to code. We'll introduce them to female entrepreneurs. And in the last 2 weeks, they'll actually build or create an app or a website or a product. Then we have Girls Who Code clubs. Our clubs are made up of girls, oftentimes, who go through our program who are like, oh my God, I've learned something awesome. I want to share that with other girls in my school or in my community. So last year we reached close to 1,000 girls through our summer immersion programs and our Girls Who Code clubs. This year we're hoping to reach around 3,000.
Wow, that's incredible growth.
Yeah, I mean, it is, considering that only last year 7,500 women graduated in computer science. So if a fourth of our girls decide to major or minor in CS and choose to go work at companies like IBM, we will have moved the needle enormously.
For sure. And I'd suggest that that growth would also point out, as you state earlier, that it's not something to do with aptitude or anything else, it's cultural, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing that kind of growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, in terms of, if you think about the software that gets produced, and as you point out, we're in this current environment where a lot of this software is being produced by teams which have a strong gender bias towards men. What would you say in terms of what impact does that have in terms of the overall output, the software that is produced?
I mean, I always say it's 85% of women make consumer purchases. We Facebook more, we tweet more, we own the internet, but we're not on the other side, right? And so by not having women as software developers, we're losing out on a ton of innovation. There's problems out there that were simply not being solved. Or as businesses, you're not able to sell as much stuff as you possibly could sell if you don't have women as part of your teams creating.
Right. So you could say that, for instance, that it's, as much as you'd be doing user testing and all those areas, that so much of development comes down to the fact in terms of decisions that are made by people that are building that code, and you're saying some of those decisions have that strong gender bias.
Right, and how they approach a problem or a solution, or how they think a user may want to solve a problem, and then you get stuck. If a group of men have come up with an answer to a certain problem, and the women are not involved in that, even if the user base, who might be women, say, oh, we like this product, you don't even know if they could have liked it even more, right, if it was developed with women on the team.
Yeah. And in terms of getting more women onto development teams, you could argue that through mobile we're seeing a stronger emphasis on design. And basically two questions here. One, would you say that maybe design might be an area where perhaps there's more gender equality in terms of the skills and the output? And secondly, whether that has an impact in terms of whether you think that may have some impact overall on development over the next few years.
Potentially. I mean, companies that I've spoken to, it's not as though there's gender parity in their design shops either, right? I think it's just potentially a way of getting more women engaged and leaping through that hurdle of the interest gap. And this is something that Jack Dorsey, who's a strong supporter of our work, is really, him and I have talked about, is making sure that we have more of a design component in our curriculum, because that's really just the future. And so I do think that that's very important.
Okay. And in terms of, so we do have, in terms of, I know through our outreach, we've got women that are currently in development, whether it be with startups, whether it be through enterprise development, different levels. In terms of, what messages would you give to those women in terms of how they can help promote this next generation of women developers and help redress this balance?
Well, I say build a sisterhood. That's what we do at Girls Who Code. We have one motto, right? You pay it forward. If you've had an opportunity to go through our program and really been given the gift of code, you have to give it to somebody else. And one of the things that's so tremendous about our organization is we are only here because of the many men and women who have said, I want to give it back. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to come speak to your girls. I'm an engineer. I'm going to volunteer and teach a Girls Who Code club. I'm a parent. I want to make sure that my children have the skill set. So there is a sense, I think, in the community, in the private sector, that we want to build the pipeline. We need to build the pipeline. It's not gender for the sake of gender, but we need women who are really out there, who are going to serve as role models, because you cannot be what you cannot see.
Excellent. Inspiring words. And if people want to know more, I know that you have a session coming up, as we're saying, at Dev Pulse. I believe the session is on February 24th. We'll post the details along with this video. But I do thank you for taking time out of your busy day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In there, right? So I'll give you some time to get on that flight.
I'll see you in Vegas.